Some sad news today, as one of the co-creators of Wizardry, Andrew Greenberg, has reportedly passed away, according to his friend and partner, Robert Woodhead. I wanted to take a few minutes to just honor Mr. Greenberg and the work that he did. Players of Wizardry are probably more familiar with Andrew Greenberg's alter ego, Werdna. Werdna, of course, being Andrew spelled backwards, the evil wizard that you are meant to defeat at the end of Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord. Wizardry is an interesting game that came at an interesting time. It was patterned very heavily on an earlier game called Oubliette that was only available for the Plato time-sharing system, a machine that many of us have never heard of. Wizardry was really the first exposure to this type of game for most normal Americans, certainly, and probably people around the world, because it operated on a personal computer rather than on a timeshare system. I think and have thought a lot about this period. Partially, that's just nostalgia. Those of you who know me know that I'm very distrustful of nostalgia as an emotion. The joke that people make is whatever you think is the best game in the world is whatever game came out when you were 13 years old. And I think there's some truth in that. I've always been very clear-eyed that although I love Wizardry, it's not a game that I think a lot of people really can get into today because it is an artifact of its time. The thing that I think about is not so much the attributes of the game, but the attributes of the business. Think of how weird it must have been to have said, we're going to turn this into a business. We're going to turn this into what we do for a living in 1980, when the market was just so much smaller. The number of people who could use these games was so much smaller. And you can kind of see in Wizardry the history of the game industry making understandable mistake after mistake after mistake. Those of you who are channel members have been watching my silent, no commentary playthrough of Wizardry the Knight of Diamonds might see what I'm getting at here. To play Knight of Diamonds, the second game in the series, you have to play the entire first game and have won it with certain characters to even start the second game. So they slashed their addressable market into a minuscule fraction. And I think that's one reason maybe that Surtech isn't with us even today. I spoke with Mr. Greenberg back in 2015. I had asked him a question about the rights surrounding Wizardry. And I came at it from a different angle. He was famously irritated a little bit. He was a very gracious person, but you could tell that he had moved on from Wizardry. And I think Robert Woodhead also, in some sense, had moved on from Wizardry. Woodhead had a very active second career working with anime and manga in Japan, and Greenberg became a patent attorney and then working as general counsel. He was very well respected in the intellectual property community, and so I came to him essentially with a legal question. And we had some common acquaintances, which helped ease that. And he was very gracious, but this is a man who, for him, I think Wizardry was what we might call juvenilia. It was something he did when he was much younger. He's glad he did it, but he had largely moved on. Regardless of how he felt about Wizardry in his later years, I'd just like to extend my condolences to his family and friends. I think, you changed the world for the better. You introduced a new way of using computers at a time when people were desperate to find something to do with these large paperweights with very little RAM and very little storage that they had somehow found themselves acquiring. I will always think very fondly of Wizardry, and Andrew, Werdna, wherever you are, thank you so much for everything you did. This is Programming Like It's 1979. Thanks for watching.